Hi, Thomas. Once again, welcome to this special podcast series. We have been collaborating for a long time. So, once again, welcome. How are you today?
Thank you. Thank you, Dharam. It's on my side, it's everything fine. I'm sitting here in Germany, and the sun is shining in. It's afternoon, and you have a very early start with your work. So you are in Texas. I think 7 o'clock in the morning.
No, 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 no. I'm not in Texas. I'm in Sydney at the moment.
Oh, it's Sydney.
Sydney,
Okay, okay.
Australia. It's a 9 o'clock. So if you see my eyes are closing, it's because it's getting late in the night.
Yeah, okay, okay. So
Yeah,
yeah, but you're normally your business is still in Texas. Yeah,
yeah.
that's my misunderstanding that you were still traveling. Yeah, but you told
Um,
me you are traveling.
Actually, you are. I get surprised sometimes. I wake up in the morning. Where I am? Am I in Dallas? Am I maybe in India or maybe traveling to Sydney or
Yeah.
something? Anyway, so it's a fun.
Well,
Uh,
I have experienced the same feelings, and but I don't envy you now because travel is not yet restarted for me.
mm,
Still, we took over a lot of these virtual meetings and Zoom contacts and everything.
yeah.
So yeah, that's how it
So
is.
yeah, so that's fine. We continue to do that. Anyway, so once again, welcome and thank you for this event. Today we have very important, interesting topic. We can talk about it, but before I talk further, let me introduce Thomas Walenta. I don't think he needs any introduction. He's one of the very important person in project program portfolio management. He has experience from IBM and he has worked for many organizations and he has served for IBM, PMI Germany chapters, and at the global level. So, I mean, believe it or not, he is one man show in project program portfolio management.
But I'm also a good team player. I hope that my well, I what I learned, from Peter Taylor, who wrote the book of the lazy project manager, is the best thing is if a project manager is not at all visible, but the team is working like hell on achieving success in the projects.
Exactly. So, all right. So, the today's topic, yeah, very important, as I say, is about PMO and current traditional PMO to the evolving PMO and the current PMO and future PMO. So, what are the gaps and what are the things organizations can do from traditional PMO to the new PMO? Okay. So, any thoughts around PMO? And let's define what is PMO all about.
Yeah. So, well, let me share my history with PMOs. I decided to be a project manager and to pursue a career in project management in 1988. And in 1995, I was asked if I could establish and run a PMO for an IBM client, which was a 600 people company in IT and which was serving a insurance company. So I
Mm,
did that, and I was there for 5 years, and in every year from the beginning, we did something new, and we added on the functionality and the tasks and the responsibilities of that PMO, and and it was called PMO at this time, Project Management Office. But if you looked at literature, examples, books, whatever, there was not much. Actually, I didn't find anything in 95, but I ran into a book about project offices, which was similar to PMOs, which for me is the first book on that topic. And it was written by David Frame, who is a professor in Washington D.C. And actually, David Frame also is a PMI member. And he was with me on the PMI board
ah,
from 2017 to 19. So yeah, very valued colleague and very handsome guy and knowledgeable guy. And he wrote about PMOs in the years in the mid 90s, when it was not it was growing, and especially in Germany, in Europe, we are lagging behind a little bit on other developments from the US. But in this, we were at the forefront in establishing a PMO. So what were the root cause of the PMO? Actually, there were two demands by the CEO of this organization to me when I came, and he said, Walenta, I'm really drowning in project escalations. Clients are calling me and have complaints about the project managers, about the status, don't know where it goes, and maybe 60-70% of my time is used with escalations and with helping things. And the main task for you, Walenta, is to reduce this time. This is my time on escalations.
Yeah.
I want to reduce the escalations, and there's a very specific personal wish of him. And this was something which I could then provide over time. Through different measures. But always have this goal in mind. And the other goal to have in mind, he said to me, is, we are a 600 people organization, which were grown up in an insurance organization, even if they are doing IT and then projects. But now they have a mindset of insurance, which is more, let's say, administrative, bureaucratic mindset. So, and what we want to do is to make sure they understand a more service-oriented, customer-oriented mindset. And that's a cultural change. So these two main topics, main goals in mind. So we started the PMO. I had myself and two people in the beginning. Later we were 8 people, in the PMO. So it grew. And we started with establishing a training program. We taught 200 of these 600 people who were in charge of some kind of projects, the principles of project management. And in parallel, we had to develop these principles for this organization. You don't grab a book and say, these are the principles and now we teach you, but you have to teach something that's suitable to that organization. And we developed this training, and it was a 2-day training. And we went with 200 people through this training. And it was widely successful. And I only can tell that because, when I left 5 years later in 2000, the PMO persisted. So one of my guys here took over the leadership and it grew and did something else. But let's say the recipe for being successful was to really permanently look at the needs of the organization and try to establish something we could go and fulfill these needs. We found out at one point that we have a terrible history in estimations of projects. So the client wants to know what does it cost, and doing some estimation, and maybe it costs three times as much. Well, in these times, I found out a rule of thumb. Yep. If a project really goes bad, it costs 3 to 4 times as much as it was estimated. And so what we did, for larger projects, we establish a function point analysis. And, if you do that, you get a very, very good review of your requirements, and you get a very good view on how many function points will be there. Yep. And it even is established if you don't know what the code is, the infrastructure, and so on. And that's what we did. We established this as a tool, as a mechanic, which could be used by new projects, and they used it. And we had some examples of using it very successfully. I was really convinced of that method. Yeah. Just one example. Another example was, we have a problem with quality, and we want to be established as an ISO 9000 certificate. And we took that project too, and we established ISO 9000 certificate in the company from the PMO point of view. So this is how we developed and how we grew. And I think, if I go now back, we did it from a gut feeling here, or we did it because we thought it was the right thing to do. We never were complacent in that team. So that's how we were successful. And if I look at my last PMO, I established several PMOs after that. So, for instance, I did a first PMO for a program. It's a program management office in 2002. And actually, this was a solution also for a customer complaint. So they came in and said, okay, we have a big problem with that program. It was a parallel rollout in different countries of SAP in Europe. And so we identified the problems, and we tackled the problems with PMO functions, program management functions. And then we established these functions, and it improved. So, and basically, there were two things we did. So we did align the communication of all these projects, that we don't have a cacophony, of information to the client. So we had one voice to the client, and that meant we had to look at all the input from the project and align them and present it in a coherent way. And this was a huge relief to the client, because he was not really alerted on stuff from one country, which could be solved by the whole program easily. Yeah. And the second thing we established was, this is the alignment of communication. I call it a vertical alignment, and then we had a horizontal alignment. It's integration between the projects, integration in requirements and scope, what you do, but also integration in people. So if one project had a shortage in one resource, maybe the other project had this resource, and normally as project manager, I was a project manager, I always hide my resources, and try to keep them in my thing. But in a program, you have the opportunity to open up these boundaries and to really exchange key resources, and that's what we did. And these two measures, the first measure increased the client satisfaction dramatically, and the second measure increased the efficiency of our whole program.
Yeah. So what you have talked about, more like traditional PMOs, where 95, 98, 2002, even now, some organization still living in the older style PMO, where they have more like supportive, where group of people, 3, 4, 5 people, they're supporting multiple projects, multiple programs by providing training or center of excellence. Or some of the PMO I've seen, they're taking the minutes, sending the minutes, reports, that kind of things are traditionally seen in some kind of PMOs. I'm not saying all of the PMOs, but many of the PMOs like this. On the lighter side, in one of the training, I asked this question to, I will not name the company. What do you understand about PMO? The very funny answer was, beautiful, few beautiful women having nail polish in hand, and so that's a PMO for them.
Well, yeah, if that delights them, that gives them some good feelings, and maybe it's a good way to go there. Well, actually, I know we discussed this before, and I know you are looking on the gaps, and say, okay, there is the traditional PMO and the future PMO, or what is developing. Well, what is the difference between then and now and the future? Well, yeah, as we say, everybody perceives VUCA, it's getting quicker, the changes, and it requires you to adapt continuously, and to observe what's going on. It also requires you, if you look at complexity, things get more complex in our heads. Yeah. So reduce complexity and so on. But I think the principle, what we did in 95, and we adapted every half year, and so we had a vision, with reduce my escalation time.
Exactly.
and change the mindset of the culture of our people. And this is the same, I think, the same today. If you don't have such a, let's say, vision, a North Star, then you will have a hard time, because even if you adapt along the way, you have to really find, okay, this direction we are going. You won't pivot, let's say, from a vision, reduce my escalation time to whatever, install a PMO to implement AI. AI. Implementation of AI is certainly a task for the organization. It's more for the business model. We had some discussions about the usage of AI in project management, and there are some tools there, to help the project manager to get hand-on on all the data that is available, and giving some recommendations for decision making. But I haven't seen really a comprehensive solution that is giving a lot of benefits. Maybe it's not so much to automate the project management processes like risk management or so on, but it's more looking at the people in the project. You have your customers, you have your stakeholders, you have your team, you have people who behave and who should behave and should be aligned, and there are AI tools now that are looking at this collaboration. How is the team developing trust in all this, and this kind of tools I think is more interesting, because it gives you early warnings what's happening. I'm not to mention the tool, but there's one tool I thought that are analyzing the communications within the teams through the tools they are using, be it Teams or be it emails or chat windows or whatever they have. And this tool looks at this, and it finds out a lot of data. It finds out some regular themes, finds out who is talking to whom and why, and is there some bad words in there, and then it gives some assessment permanently. It's a continuous process, and the project manager can look at it without maybe identifying the individuals easily. In the end, you can identify them all the time, but looking at, there is a change in tone in communications, for instance. Or these two guys, there are two guys who used to collaborate a lot, and now it stopped. Or there are two guys who doubled their communications in the last week. And with this kind of information, you could at least see there is a change happening. And that's what VUCA also tells you. Listen and observe what's going on, in the environment, and you can have this listening effect by AI tools. That's possible. So I find this kind of emotional intelligence AI a little bit more interesting than the process-oriented AI, with this automating some approval scenes or whatever. It's also okay. It's good. It might help, but I think the second part, looking at the people, has a higher value for projects, because projects are about people in the end.
Yeah, it's actually not only just people, but also we have to think about automating or free up some time so that the project manager can focus on, working with stakeholders, or focus on strategic objective of the project or program. And I've seen traditionally, most of the project managers they are busy, so much busy, not just running the program or project, they are busy in reports, busy in writing, big emails or meeting minutes. So, these things can be automated by having a good tool, AI-based tool, or some real-time system, and so that means the focus can shift from worrying about reporting to running the program or delivering the benefit for the stakeholders.
Right. So a project manager should concentrate on influencing others to support the project, to have a good, and talking about meeting minutes, for instance, it's very clear that all the things that were discussed in the meeting, they could be prepared by an AI or by an administrative staff person, whatever. You have a scribe in the meeting. But it's very important that the minutes then are reviewed and tweaked by the project manager, because that's the kind of influencing. In Germany, we have the saying, the one who writes, he also tells you where to go, what your focus and how you write it, and you always make influencing statements around it. It's not only a fact reporting such a meeting, but you're right. AI can help a lot here, and on the other hand, if you have the minutes established by AI and reviewed by the project manager, what you can save is maybe one project assistant who is being the scribe, and it's not a big saving. So
I was talking to we do have a product with the help of mine. He developed a very fantastic real-time system we call vXTCC, and it is AI based and real-time system. So when we are doing demo to this company, Universal Studio, I think everybody knows about Universal Studio, and this person, he was saying, Dharam, this is to maintain my report, to maintain my all the Excel spreadsheet. I'm using 2 assistants. They work day in, day out to help me out. If I have the system, your system, it looks very fantastic, exactly what they are doing. I'm not asking, we have, of course, the life of, people's life, they lose job, but they can be utilized for some other better things. So these 2 people can be replaced by this system, and they can focus on running real projects. So when I was talking to my friend there, he looked, the feedback is, the PMO work, a lot of PMO work can be automated. So he said that's the purpose of this platform, to automate most of the work, so that the reports, alerts, or business intelligence is happening at the fingertips of the project program and portfolio managers and the CEO level.
Well, I'm unsure if AI could replace PMO in the future.
Because
some of the let's say administrative processes, yes, they can.
Some activities
can take over. But the PMO, if the PMO is continuously listening what's going on and what are the needs, then you have to have some people who talk to other people. So you have to understand what's going on in the organization. I even say, and I have the experience, if you are a hired hand, a consultant coming to a company, you cannot be a good PMO leader because you are not part of the culture and of the group. They wouldn't accept you as an inner person, even if you get all the information you need. You are always an outside person, and here you see how important it is that you are a member of the group of the organization who is using that PMO to make better projects.
So one thing you talked about, in a lot of meetings where meeting minutes are taken by somebody, that role, I know if you ask me to run a meeting, it will take minutes. Sometimes I forget. But there are a lot of tools which, like Zoom, can capture a lot of information, and some of the tools can summarize the main points, and so that you don't have to worry about typing that. So this kind of thing we're talking, replacing. The human don't have to worry about. Yes, you still have to review whether the information captured by this machine is correct or not. So that's something you have to do. But writing that, or did you miss something during the meeting or not? It's already captured by the system or machine.
Well, but if you capture it by machine, you could even now you are recording the session and it takes maybe an hour. And if you want to go into that, okay, you have to spend an hour to just maybe get the information in minute 45 where you're interested. So the point is, even if you have scribes or AI or a tool or recording, I always do with my minutes, to highlight the stuff that's important for the reader. So if I have minutes, there is a cover page maybe who highlights the 3, 4, 5 big things in that report later on. And then if you want, you can go to the details later and challenge me. But the judgment a good minute writer is doing, on highlighting what is important for the audience or for the project team, for the sponsor, whoever reads it, is very important. And it's a human judgment.
So I think the meeting minutes is a good example, but I think we have to think from the Agile, because lots of organizations moving into Agile. So the traditional PMO is not going to be effective in the same Agile environment. So we need to think from the Agile transformation. When the Agile transformation we have to talk about PMO transformation as well. The tools they're going to use to track the project programs, the issues to manage are going to be different now.
No. Well, I think, when I look at 95, we already were Agile, because we watch what's going on and we adapted what we are doing on that. Well, it was on a maybe half-year cycle, but we didn't even define the cycle, because as it came up, we reacted on that. But you could do it much more often. So I in my last PMO, which I implemented until 2019, so I implemented the PMO as an iterative Agile program. So the PMO was not in hierarchical organization doing some stuff that was defined, but it really was that we started from eliciting requirements from our stakeholders, looking at the expected benefits, implementing measures to achieve these benefits, and reporting on these benefits. So and then go back to the stakeholders and so on. And this was a cycle, And so the first thing is it's a program. So because only a program is best suited to achieve benefits. So if you look at the PMO achieving benefits, you could use some program management features, and some which are taught in the PgMP exam prep and so on. And the second thing is, if you go look at the program not as a only sequential thing you hear at the end, but you say, okay, no, there is no end, because it circles. Once you are done with one iteration, you start with the next one. It's like a sprint. And so in that respect, we had 6-month sprints in that PMO, and we reviewed our targets, our focus, our priorities, and we did that not by our own knowledge or understanding, but by reviewing what the stakeholders think about it. Because after we did something, the stakeholders had a different opinion about what we should do or could do, or so stakeholders' requirements changed also every half year. So and trying to reflect that, and that's Agile. And in that PMO, we supported traditional projects like SAP rollouts, which are sequential, predefined and following a phase concept. And we supported Scrum teams, and we tried to find standards that suit both kinds of projects, and we found them. And it's very hard, because sometimes the Scrum people said we don't want to be compared with the traditional people, but nevertheless you can compare. People spend time, people are satisfied or not, and there are requirements and there are products, and so there is a lot of common things, and it's it's of no use to try to find the not common things and try to establish some kind of dichotomy here and bipolar thing. So we have to think about what is common. And to be honest, I did the same kind of health checks to the Scrum projects and to the other projects. Same questions, which were a little bit elevated. And the Scrum projects scored better than the other projects, to be honest, because of the kind of Scrum that you develop requirements over time, that gave them more control about what they're doing in this sprint cycle.
Yeah. So, Thomas, in your opinion, do we have any lesson learned which we can learn from the existing or traditional PMO, and when we are developing, establishing a PMO in today's world, especially post-COVID? I know COVID is going on, but post-COVID time.
Well, I think one lesson learned is, as a PMO leader, you got to understand what your task is. Do you have a long-term vision? Reduce my escalation time, which needs a lot of steps to achieve and to improve, or do we have a very specific task? Okay, we have to establish a kind of project reporting, and you can do this in 6 months and maybe some grace period, and then it runs after a year or so. So you have to, is it a one-time task? When you finish, you go and do something else? Or is it something you are trying to build to be a continuous benefit to the organization? If it's the second thing, that it should be a continuous benefit, then be aware that stakeholder requirements and stakeholder and benefits, expected benefits, they change over time. So you have to be very adaptive and listening and observing what's happening and how it changes. And actually, the best thing is if you develop something in a PMO, and provide your stakeholders, project managers, management, whoever, with services, their requirements are to change because you have an impact on them. And they see it's okay, they develop some trust in you, and then you can do the next thing. And that is what I did in my first PMO. That's why I survived 5 years and growing from 3 to 8 people. So that is also what all these project center of excellences, in IBM, we had a center of excellence who also did that. They had a long-term plan, but they also developed one thing after the other to achieve their long-term targets. And so they survived 20 years and then more. So that's it.
Yeah, so there's a lot to learn, especially we're still evolving as we speak. And while COVID has helped us to grow much faster in PMO than we initially thought. We would say, but because everybody has to work from home and work from away from home, and now PMO role has changed. They have to evolve. They have to rely on technology, cloud-based technology, digitalization, or automated tools. Connectivity. 24/7. About mobile connections. All these are helping to evolve the new PMO to perform better. Not just stay focused on reporting or something. Okay, that should happen automatically. While let's focus more on the strategy or strategic direction. How can we do bigger and better programs in the shorter time with limited resources we have?
Maybe one thought about the PMO today after Corona, with much more virtual communications and teams going on. I think in the past, PMOs were more involved in aligning standards and processes, templates and documentation. And, all the teaming took place in the project, in the office, and it was not so much supported by the PMO. because, well, it was very specific to the team and to the people in there, and the project manager was in charge of doing it. Now, with the virtual communications, we have to go back to all these basic methods and techniques in communication and employ them in a virtual way. And many people don't understand that correctly. It starts with how to do a Zoom meeting, how to do an agenda, invitation, a preparation, and minutes and everything. So there is something to learn about it, and a PMO could support with this learning. So the PMO could provide a bunch of tools and techniques in communication, which is taking place virtually. And beyond communication, in team building established in trust and knowing each other. So there are a lot of ways doing that. And if you have in an organization, let's say 30, 40 big projects, every project is doing that on their way. But maybe why not gather the lessons learned from them and say, okay, what are the tools and techniques you have developed or are employing to improve that teaming? And then the PMO is somehow again a distributor of the common knowledge that is somehow dispersed in the organization.
Yeah, perfect. Look, thank you, Thomas. It's a great discussion. Your learning from experience, traditional PMO versus new PMO, and some lesson learned, the tools, automation, hybrid PMO, agile PMO, digitalization is another buzzword is happening. All this is influencing the newer structure of PMO. And I only can guess or think that nowadays or coming future, we will have more proactive PMO. They are playing more of a role in strategic projects of program management rather than worrying about taking meeting minutes or collecting data or analyzing, because that should all happen. Most of the work can happen using the tools, some of the tools available in the market. This can be automated. Then you PMO team focus on emotional intelligence, focus on well-being of the staff, and of course helping the project program manager with the subject matter expert knowledge they have. So I think it's a look. I'm looking forward to this exciting time where PMO and project managers, portfolio managers are focusing more on the bigger and better things, strategic project programs, rather than worrying about taking minutes and others. Yes. Any last minutes you have? Last things you want to talk?
Well, thanks, Dharam, for organizing these talks and also publishing them and making them available. As always, for our audience, if you have any questions, comments, don't hesitate to contact us and come back with questions to see how we have done that. If you are new to project management, new to a PMO, you should have a lot of questions, and I'm certain you don't have to follow what we have done 20 years ago, but some of these things are still valid today, and I think it's not a bad thing to listen to elders.
Exactly. Good. Thank you, Thomas, once again, and thanks for people who are listening, and thanks for your ongoing questions. Please send your questions, ask questions to me or Thomas about PMO, setting of the PMO, or not only PMO, but anything, program management, project management, portfolio management. I think we have spent enough time in this space. We can definitely help in solving most of the problem. I'm not saying all the problem, but most of the problem, at least give you guidance, direction to do things better.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Dharam.
Thank you very much.
And stay away from the floods in Australia.
No, floods are away. So it's raining here for last 5 days, but it's not, it's okay. We sometimes need water. All right. Thank you, Thomas. And
bye-bye.
See you again. Bye. Take care.